Hello everybody, welcome back to the Three Bookshelves. I am Tara and this is another book haul. Yep. 12 new books this time. Oh my gosh. So let's get right into it and we'll start off with the boring stuff, nonfiction, with The Emotional Craft of Fiction, How to Write the Story Beneath the Surface by Donald Maass. This was recommended to me by someone in my Camp NaNoWriMo cabin after I lamented that all of my characters just smiled and sighed, and that was basically it. This book apparently helps you write in a way that will make your readers feel things, and that's always good. I love books that make me feel the feels, so I'm hoping this one will help me make my book make other people feel the feels. And hopefully with body language other than smiling and sighing. And moving on to middle grade novels with Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. This is a children's classic about a pig named Wilbur and a spider named Charlotte who weaves praise for Wilbur into her webs in hopes that their farmer won't slaughter Wilbur. I'd hoped to get to this for middle grade March, but I just didn't have the time. But then in April I found it at the secondhand store that I usually get my son's books at. It was only $1. So clearly fate wants me to read this book. I vaguely remember reading this when I was a kid, and I vaguely remember something really sad happening at the end, so we'll see if this is another kid's book that makes this 34-year-old woman cry. James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl, another kid's classic coincidentally about bugs. James is a 4-year-old boy who accidentally magics a peach to the size of a house along with all the bugs that live inside the peach's pit. And James and the bugs go with the peach on an adventure to find a new home. I did read this during middle grade March and I freaking loved it, so it was only a matter of time before I got my hands on my own copy. This was a favorite of mine growing up. I love it just as much, if not more, as an adult, and I hope that my son is going to grow up to love it too. And Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Riordan. This is the first book in its series and it follows 12-year-old Percy Jackson as he discovers he's not just an average kid, he is the demigod son of Poseidon, and he goes on a quest to recover a stolen relic and prevent a catastrophic war between the gods. This was the winner of my Try a Chapter challenge, and I was about 100 pages into it when my library loan expired and I couldn't renew it because someone else had a hold on it, but I was already really enjoying the book, so here we are. And spoiler alert, you're probably going to be seeing more Percy Jackson books in future book hauls. And now for some classics. The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. This is about a 19th century scientist who builds a time machine and travels hundreds of thousands of years into the future, where he finds humanity vastly changed and society perfected, or so he thinks, until his time machine goes missing. As a lover of sci-fi and time travel, I have long wanted to read this book, so when I found it for like $2 or $3 on Book Outlet, couldn't resist. It is a lot smaller than I was expecting though. Look at that. It's, I think, just under 100 pages. 106 pages. That is a short book. Very quick read. This still has a sticker on it. Oh no, please come off. So satisfying. 1984 by George Orwell. I don't really know what this book is about other than that it's a dystopian set in what had been the future of 1984 when society is dominated by an omnipresent government who is constantly watching and manipulating the public and who has eradicated individuality and free speech. I don't really want to know any more than that. I rarely go into a book blind because I like to know what I'm getting myself into, but in this case, this is another classic I have long wanted to read for how impactful it's been on modern fiction. So, doesn't really matter what the plot itself is about, I'm gonna read it. My husband actually found this in a used bookstore for a couple of bucks and he grabbed it for himself, but since I have wanted to read it for so long, I claimed it. He can have it back when I'm done with it. And now on to the fun stuff. I've got a mix of contemporary and thriller and YA and sci-fi and fantasy, just a whole mishmash. First up is Room by Emma Donoghue. This is another book I don't know a whole lot about, other than it's about a mother and her young son who have been held captive for years. Literally the boy's entire life, so all he knows is the room that they live in. He has no idea that an actual world exists outside of that room. Just that is enough to make me want to read this book because that sounds terrifying and heartbreaking, and as the mother of a young boy, pretty sure I'm gonna shed some tears over this book. This book has had a whole bunch of hype over the last few years, especially since the movie came out, and I've wanted to read it for a long time, so I was really stoked when I found it for a few bucks on Book Outlet. Also, I only just realized after I got the book that Emma Donoghue is not only Canadian, but she lives like an hour away from me, so I kinda hope I don't love this book, because if I do, how am I going to restrain myself from just showing up on a doorstep to fangirl about it? And next I have The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This is a psychological thriller that's been compared to Gone Girl and The Girl on the Train. like every other psychological thriller is these days. It kicks off with two strangers, Ted and Lily, who meet on an airplane and who divulge some intimate details of their lives to each other, like how Ted's marriage is failing because his wife's been cheating on him and he could just kill her for what she's done, and Lily says that she'll help him kill her. And next up is Off to Be the Wizard by Scott Meyer. This is about a guy who discovers he can manipulate reality because it turns out reality is just one big computer program. But when he is caught doing it and is facing prosecution, he decides to escape to the Middle Ages where he can pass off his manipulations as magic and pose as a wizard in King Arthur's court. I found this in a list of recommendations for books to read if you liked Ready Player One, and how could I not? It is matrixy sci-fi mixed with historical fantasy. It sounds so totally geeky, and look at this cover. Look at it. How can a book with this cover not be hilarious? I'm probably going to read this towards the end of the year because I am planning to read a lot of horror in September and October, and I'm thinking I'm going to want something light and fun after that. This is going to fit that mark perfectly. Wool by Hugh Howey. This is the first book in a dystopian sci-fi series set in a post-apocalyptic Earth where the surface is uninhabitable. So what's left of humanity lives underground in a silo that's 150 stories deep, and they're ruled by a totalitarian government and the litany of rules and regulations that they believe are meant to protect them. The story kicks off when a sheriff who has upheld the silo's rules for years suddenly breaks the biggest rule of all and asks to go outside. And the punishment for such an act of rebellion is to get exactly what you wish for. I've wanted to read Wool for many years because, like Rainbow Rowell's Fangirl and Marissa Meyer's Lunar Chronicles, this is a NaNoWriMo success story. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month. It happens every November and it challenges participants to write a 50,000 word novel in 1 month. Hugh Howey was a 3-time NaNoWriMo winner when he wrote the original Wool novella and self-published it in 2011. And when it started to rack up sales and requests for more, he decided to spend NaNoWriMo that year continuing the story. By the following January, the Wool omnibus was complete at 160,000 words, half of which were written during NaNoWriMo, and the series was eventually picked up by Simon & Schuster and has cracked the top 20 of the New York Times bestsellers list. I love reading books that got their start with NaNoWriMo because I am a longtime NaNoWriMo veteran myself. The novel I hope to get published someday started as a nano novel, so I can't wait to finally dive into Wool. A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab, the finale of the Shades of Magic series, which is set across 4 different Londons and 4 parallel dimensions. The story follows Kel, one of the last magicians who was able to travel between those dimensions, and Lila, who is a thief from our real-world London, and she joins Kel on a quest to stop a powerful dark magic from infecting and destroying each of the 4 parallel worlds. Ooh, special extra content included! What is it? It has all the Antari spells? Are they spells? Oh, cool! It's like a dictionary, like an Arnesian dictionary. Oh, that's so cool. I binged this entire series back to back last year and absolutely loved it, so I am thrilled to finally have A Conjuring of Light to add to my favorite shelf. And last but not least, Gemina by Amie Kaufman and J. Kristoff, the second book of the Illuminae Files series. Once again, I have no real idea what this book is about other than that it follows 2 new characters on the Heimdall station, but I don't know if it's set concurrently with Illuminae or after Illuminae or what, but I don't care, I'm gonna read it. Illuminae was the first book I read in April and I loved the absolute hell out of it, and it has taken every single last drop of my self-control not to abandon my entire TBR and just read Gemina right away. I don't know how I've lasted this long. I really don't. This is without a doubt the first book I'm going to read in July, and I might just do myself a favor and put Obsidio on that TBR too, so I don't have to wait to read it either. That is all I have for you guys today. Hopefully I won't have any more new books to show you anytime soon, but let's face it, probably will. If you've read any of these books, let me know down below what you thought of them. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more. You know the drill. And until next time, everybody, happy reading. Bye-bye. This is the first book in a dystopian sci-fi series set in a post-apocalyptic Earth where the surface has become that is no longer where the surface has become oh my gosh, uninhabitable is the word I'm looking for.